Chapter 10, Part A, Review. We're going to review the things that we've covered in sections 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3. First, we need to review the parts of the Cartesian Coordinate System. In the Cartesian Coordinate System, we have a vertical and a horizontal number line. The horizontal number line, this number line right here, is the x-axis. This number line, the vertical number line, is the y-axis. The point where the two number lines meet, here in the middle, is the origin. And the Cartesian coordinate system is broken up into 4 parts, which are called quadrants. And the quadrants are numbered using Roman numerals. And we start in the upper right-hand corner with quadrant 1. And then we go counterclockwise. This is quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. To label points on a graph, we start at the origin and we do our x-coordinate first, which means we tell how far we go left or right first, and then our y-coordinate, which tells how far we go up or down. If we're going to tell the coordinates of point A on this graph, we start at the origin, which is right in the center, and then we count how far we go to the left, 1, 2 spaces, so that's my x-coordinate. And then we count how far we go up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so 5 is my y-coordinate. So the coordinates of point A are 2, 5. If I want to tell the coordinates of B, again I start at 0, 0, and I go left and right first, my x first. So since I'm going to the left to get to B, that's going to be a negative number. So it's a negative 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4. And then I go down 1, 2, 3 spaces. So down is also negative. So that would be negative 3. So if I go to the right or up, it's positive. If I go to the left or down, it's negative. Here, they've given me the coordinates and I need to plot the point. So the coordinates of C are negative 2, 3. And just like before, I start at 0, 0. And I'm going to go my x value first. So since my x coordinate is negative 2, that means I'm going to go, I'm starting at 0. I'm going to go to the left 1, 2. And then positive 3, so I go up 1, 2, 3. And that's where I stop. That's where I put my point. So this is C. And then if I'm going to plot D, D is at 3, negative 1. So it's a positive 3. So again, I start at 0, 0, and I go positive 1, 2, 3. And then negative 1, so I go down 1. That's where I put my point for D. Now we're going to review graphing lines. If you're told to graph a line by using a t-table, sometimes you'll be given points to plug in and sometimes you'll have to choose your own points. When choosing your own points, I would always plug in values for x, and I would choose the points 0, 1, and 2, or negative 1, 0, 1, because we want small values to plug in to the equation, and it's just easier if we plug them in for x. But in this example, we're given a t-table and they've given us what to plug in. So there are 3 points, and the first point that they want us to plug in is 0 for x. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to plug in 0 for x into the equation to get my y. So if I plug in 0 where the x is, well, 2 times 0 is 0, so that just turns into a 0 and goes away, and I'm left with y equals 4. So when I plugged in 0 for x, I got out 4 for y. So that gives me the point 0, 4 to put on my graph. So if I go down to my graph, 0, 4, I don't go left to right because there's 0 for my x, but I just go up 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the point that I just found. Okay, so now I'm going to plug in 0 for y. If I plug in 0 for y into the equation, this just gives me 2x equals 4. And to solve this, I divide by 2. So I get x equals 2. So I plugged in 0 for y, and I got out 2 for x. So to plot this point to 0, my x is 2, so I'm going to go to the right 2 spaces, and then I don't go up or down because my y is 0. And then for the last coordinate that they gave us the y coordinate of 2, so I'm going to plug in 2 for y, and then solve the equation. So that gives me 2x equals 2, and then I divide by 2, so x equals 1. So when I plugged in 2 for y, I got out 1 for x, and to plot that point, I'm going to go 1 for my x, so I go to the right 1, and then up 2 for y. And that gives me my points, and I connect my points to draw my line. And make sure you put arrows at the ends. Okay, for this equation, we are going to find the intercepts. So to find the intercepts, that just means to find the x-intercept, we plug in 0 for y. To find the y-intercept, we plug in 0 for x. And remember, the intercepts are where our line crosses the x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. The y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. And to do that, we can also make a chart or a t-table, but it's just a 0, 0 chart. So I'm going to plug in 0 for x and 0 for y, and that will give me my 2 intercepts. If I plug in 0 for x into my equation, I get 0 minus 3y equals 6. Well, the 0 just goes away. And to solve for y, I'm going to divide by negative 3. So that gives me y equals negative 2. Okay, so when I plugged in 0 for x, I got out 2 for y. So that means that my y-intercept is 2. Okay, so on my y-axis, I'm going to go up 2 and put a dot. All right, and now I'm going to plug in 0 for y to find my x-intercept. So that gives me x minus 3 times 0 equals, let me move down just a little bit. X minus 3 times 0 equals 6. Well, negative 3 times 0 is 0, so that just turns to 0. So I get x equals 6. So when I plugged in 0 for y, I got out 6 for x, so my x-intercept is 6. So on my x-axis, I'm going to go to the right 6 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces, and put my dot. And then I just connect those 2 points to get my line. And that's how we graph by using the intercepts. For this equation, we're going to graph by using slope-intercept form. Well, remember that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. The m is my slope, and so in this case, my m, or my slope, is 3. And b is my y-intercept, so in this case, my y-intercept is negative 2. The first thing that we always use when we're graphing in slope-intercept form is the y-intercept. That's where it crosses the y-axis. In this case, my y-intercept is negative 2, so on my y-axis, I'm going to go down 2 and put a dot. And then my slope is 3. Well, slope is rise over run, so I need to have a rise and a run. So I'm going to change this to a fraction, which is 3 over 1. So from my y-intercept, down there at -2, I'm going to rise 3 and run 1. That gives me my slope. I can do it again. I can rise 3 and run 1. It just helps when we're graphing to have more than 2 points. So you can do it as many times as you want to. And then we connect our dots and have our line. This has only one letter. So remember, if it only has one letter, it's either going to be a horizontal line or a vertical line. Remember, hoi, vux. That stands for horizontal lines have a slope of 0, and the equation is y equals some number. Vertical lines have a slope that's undefined, and it's x equals some number. Well, since this is x equals some number, we know that it's going to be a vertical line. So all we do is on our x-axis, we go over to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot, and then we draw a vertical line through that dot.